side note, we actually have a better tool called FNM, and we can install it via this link. Um, it will be very simple for Mac and Linux. There will be one command in this repository readme, and after doing that, use fnm install LTS to install the latest version. To check your installation, just use node-v and npm-v. It should give you the corresponding version. And if you have any issues with local setup, um, we have the GitHub code spaces. Uh, it's not very recommended, but it's hosted in cloud and it has Node.js and npm already installed. To initialize the project, you can use npm create bit at latest. We will have time for you guys to set up this later. And then you just initialize it with npm, just cd. So after initializing, just install the dependencies, just go to that folder that Vite created for you and do npm install and npm run dev. And the Vite will give you a link, and after you click a link, you're all set. What it creates, so the non modules, it's the packages you install from npm install, and public is all the static files, images. SRC, which means source code, is where your code goes, and index.html is the main HTML file, and package.json, which is all the dependencies. Bitconfig is the configuration file for Bit. This is the example, like after you initialize with Bit. I recommend you go to the slides again and follow slides to install the local environment. If you meet any issues, just raise up your hands and we'll help. Thank you.
Do you want to demo it? Just demo it on your laptop. Quickly.
Yeah, so if you go to the slides, just go to this install Node.js and click on this GitHub repository. If you're in this repository, scroll down to the installation. Use the only script for Mac OS and Linux. If you're going to use Windows, I think there will be some files for Windows as well. After you install it, you can check your installation with. Can you hold this for me?
Just do clear.
Can you hold this? So you just use fnm -- version if you install it correctly, and after you install it, do fnm install -- lts and you can check your installation.
Demo it. Take it wrong.
I want them to.
Demo it.
Yeah,
Let's show it.
I want them to do it first. So,
Oh, give them some time. I think it's enough time. You can use demo it.
should we ask something?
Huh?
Should we ask something?
No, I think it's fine. Just like demo this bit. Creating like the previous steps.
Yeah, so if you've done this, if you have your Node.js installed, you can do node-v to check your Node.js version and npm-v to check your npm version. After that, just give that GitHub code spaces, and to initialize your project, you go to a folder and do npm create with latest. After doing that, you might wait for a bit while for like installing the Vite, and the project name you can keep it default, which is Vite project, and select a framework. You need to select React, and the variant we want to use JavaScript. So now it's already project in your folder. If we go to next step, which is install the dependencies, go to Vite project, which is the folder, and npm install all the dependencies. Might take a while. And after added all the packages, you can do npm run dev. And we have a link from Vite. If you click on it, that's the default page from Vite. Shall I say something like, we'll wait for 5 minutes?
5 is too long.
What?
Nothing. Give it like a minute. Just think we'll wait for a couple of minutes.
We'll wait for a couple of minutes. If you have any questions, just raise up your hand. Thanks.
You're ready. Just chuckles. Yeah, like yeah. I think it worked. I think I got all of my requisite.
Well, he wasn't yelling. He was just saying that
Install.
and he didn't ask me to be part of CPC. That's the because it's my choice, right? He wasn't trying to convince me to join CPC. Basically.
I am. My favorite thing is I've set up so many dev environments that I think they use.
Dude, the boss is like
Collective GMP dev.
Yes, my name's Cameron.
Yeah, no, that's the dream. I gotta get to that.
that's fine.
Yes.
I don't know.
And that I might actually. I have good machines in my spare room.
Oh yeah.
You're the
And what was I teach?
is it like Docker containers? Because that'd be really helpful.
Gaslighting.
That'd be really helpful because I have VMs all at one computer. And I was like, there's got to be some way to access all this out myself from my other computers. And I would like to
Falsify that.
I don't believe it's real.
Falsify the
These are all VMs that I have. Some of these.
and where are these ones? At home. And you can access them right now.
Okay, yes.
That's it. Yeah. That sounds good.
That's a really so far. Exactly. That's what math is.
Oh, this is really good.
But that means
Yeah,
you need to
I mean, this is exactly the service that I need.
This is still a double lie.
I just like it's one of those things where like you just know that there's one thing that's really cool but you don't know what it is yet. Luckily, no way of reconnecting to what? My computer that I own at my house.
You would need to like boot it and then like either edit the operating system from
Wait, so what is like Cogtech isn't just a Linux? It's an OS. Awesome.
so that way it's got really
Yeah. Yeah, right.
No, I looked at like
really good.
Yeah, so I've dual booters between Windows and that's enough for one. My SSD. Oh no, I have actually a 2 terabyte hard drive into the document.
See?
Yeah. So what are your vans?
Alright, I hope this is working for everyone. And let's go on to the introduction. So first of all, why we want to use a front-end framework? With traditional HTML, JavaScript, and CSS, everything is mixed together. It's hard to reuse and maintain, but with front-end framework, we have components which we can reuse the code, and it's easier to manage. So what is React? React is a JavaScript library for building a dynamic and reactive UIs. We use it for developing a web app frontend, and it's maintained by Meta, which is Facebook, and it have a open source community for it. So what is component in React? Components are functions that return HTML. They are reusable and ideally return only one thing, like normal functions. So this is a hello world example of components, which just return a H2 hello world with a div tag. So JSX is something you return from a React component. You can write HTML-like code in the return statement, and its syntax is an extension of JS and gets translated back to JS in the end, which is used with or like other bundling, like the libraries. There are a few differences between vanilla HTML, like classes versus class name, or like for versus HTML4. So regular JS and JSX. To include regular JS into return statement, we use curly brackets to vary JS, which is like that. You have a message const, and you just use curly braces to wrap it, and you add it to the return value. Virtual DOM. Virtual DOM is how React works inside, and it's a lightweight copy of the real DOM used by React to optimize updates. It's comparing the virtual DOM with the previous version using diffing, and only changed elements are updating the real DOM, improving the performance. That's a example image that tells you how virtual DOM works. Components. So
Try to do this. I'll do. So components in more detail. So basically components are building blocks of a React app UI. And they're basically, like Justin said, reusable and self-contained pieces that return JSX. And each component should be an independent piece of UI, ideally. So for example, in that diagram there, you can have like avatar, image and name, and like car title and description. So React components are similar to functions, and a function can return one or more child components. And if a parent component re-renders, all of its children also need to re-render as well. And a component can be passed optional props, which is short for properties, which is like function arguments. So ideally, we have a single component per file. So that's just an example of the counting button component. It just has a simple button, HTML button with use state. We'll talk more about that later. And then we're passing the children. So props, yeah, they're short for properties, and they can pass props to a component using JSX, using a similar syntax to HTML attributes. And components can receive props as a single props object. So for example, there in that image, you can see it's passing props, and then hello props.name returns the name object from the props basically. And you can call it like that. So message name is equal to Rick, and it should say hello Rick when you display it. So destructuring props, basically you can still do this, it's perfectly fine, but it's easier to do it by destructuring them. So it can basically make them more open-ended. If you have the props.name, it's more open-ended, but if you access the props directly, like in the second image, it just makes it more clearer what exact prop you're using. Props children, so we can have elements between JSX tags that can be accessed via the props children tag. So this is especially helpful if you want to add one div inside another div. So for example, making a fancy border component. So basically you're just wrapping this counting button component within the fancy border component. So it just adds that border effect for that whole button. Conditional rendering, so we use this quite a lot in all the open source theme projects. It's quite useful in React, so it displays different UI elements based on certain conditions. So for example, you can have a button toggle or user login status, and typically uses ternary operations or top ternary operators like the double ampersand or if statements. And also you can use the question mark ternary operator as a shorthand for if else. So this example just shows a basic toggle to hide or show content. So you just use that same syntax. And this obviously is quite a simple example, but it's quite useful if you want to make a larger, more complex websites and make it more responsive and adaptable to the user's inputs. List rendering, renders can also be used for repeated elements from an array. For example, for things like items, users, or posts. So think of how your Instagram feed, this basically uses list rendering. So how we do this is using the dot map to loop over the data and return the components. And each item should ideally have a unique key prop to help React track the changes efficiently. So for example, here we have characters from Rick and Morty. So it just loops through them and displays them as a list. And the key is basically the index in the array. So the key, typically the index is fine for most use cases. If you wanted something like for example, users in a database, ideally you'll have an ID for that user, and you'll probably use that instead. Hooks. So React hooks is basically special functions that keeps the UI responsive and in sync with users' actions or external data. And the reason is that they're called hooks is because they're functions that hook into the app state. And it basically simplifies logic by co-locating the state and behavior within the same React component file. So the main hook is useState. So hook basically allows functional components to have state, as the name suggests. It enables reactive UI where changes to state trigger automatic updates to the DOM. Unlike a normal variable, useState preserves state across re-renders, while a regular variable gets reset on each render. So for example, on the first image, that normal like JavaScript message, the state doesn't keep track, whereas if you use useState with React, you can actually set it and it maintains a state. So the syntax for useState, it consists of an array of two elements. The first is the value and the second is a function. So the function in this example is setMessage. So that basically sets the value of the state variable or message. The function name can realistically be anything, but general convention is to name it set state, where state is the name of the state variable. And useState argument is basically the default value for the state variable. So when you define it in this, you're basically setting the default value to hello world.
To demonstrate the components and of the previous slides, we made a demo for a button, which is a counter button. So when we click this button, it will increase the times for the button inside the text. So if I go to the button, I just want to copy this one. And if you create your project, you can keep this vid running and use VS Code to open that folder. If I paste that button here, so if I create a component, you can do, I would like to send this here. So, yeah. So you create a new file, or actually I want to create a new folder called components to contain all the components. And I create a component called counter button. The extension name is JSX. Just paste it. Then go to your app.jsx. Actually, I can remove all of it basically. Templates, and we just import the component we made before. So with this component, we have three properties. Children, which is the text inside the button. The size, we have a small size, which is a smaller button, and on click, which is what you do after you click it. So to use it, we just use this, it's called counting button, so counting button, and we just pass the properties like HTML, so we will have a children, it will be hello, and we have a size, we can give it a normal for now, and we have an on click. So for on click, it should be a function, and to pass a function, I will use arrow function here. I just want to maybe console log button click it, and that's it. So the vid will auto refresh it if you go back to the link. There will be a button, and its normal size, it has a hello inside it, and after you click it, it will log a button click it. So in order to have that click times, we will use useState to have a count, and every time you click it, you set a count to count +1, and so after you click it, it's gonna increase. And if we want to create another button which is smaller, we can change the size to small, and we can change its text to word. Now you have a smaller button which is text as word, and it do the same logic. So that's a demo for the component. Another hook is useEffect. What is useEffect? useEffect is a hook that runs side effects. For example, like starting a timer or data fetching in functional components. So it runs after the component renders, allowing to interact with Storm or external system. It can be controlled with dependencies, which ensuring it runs only when a specific value change. So in this example, we have state as a dependency, and we do something when state changes. The syntax is pretty straightforward. The first is a callback function, and the second is an optional dependency array. If you don't have that dependency array, it will do the callback function every time the component we render. So to use effect on the first render, you can just give it a no dependency array. Actually, you can give it a empty array instead of no dependency, because no dependency array will run every time it renders. So use effect on state change. If you have that dependency, like the message is a state, it will log every time the message change. Data fetching. So what we need to fetch in React, it's basically for get data from a backend, which is needed for full stack web apps, or get data from an external API, which will be used for our following demo, or send data to a server, or perform an action on the backend. From the last workshop, we introduced Fetch API. It's built-in API from JS. It will driving data from an URL through the fetch function. The function returns a promise, which results with a response project, and the response object. The response object has a JSON method which returns a promise that can deserialize the JSON string to a JavaScript object. Remember, you can use the secret syntax async await for promises. This is how you fetch in React, but there will be some issues while doing that, because if you do that, it will refresh every time the component we render. So to fix it, we need to integrate it with state, and we can set the state after then, but it will also re-render because the fetch is still in the component. And in order to fix that, we need to prevent infinite loops. We usually either only want to fetch data once or when something changes. So we need to move this fetch to the use effect and ensure it just fetch once. So in this example, we can fetch this Rick and Morty API only once when the app component is rendered. So now we're going to make a demo with Rick and Morty API. Does anyone have any questions? Yep.
In the onClick, what is the difference between using an argument in the onClick versus just a state?
On which bit?
Could you repeat?
Can you repeat
Can
the
you repeat
question, please?
again?
So in the arrow argument for the onClick button, where it was clicking some number of times, what's the difference between passing an argument in there and just using the state value?
Because for onClick, we need to have a callback function.
Sure, but you can just reference the state, can't you?
Before.
Like the count value.
Like the slides.
Yep, so Yep.
So
Actually,
16,
yep.
if you take out that C and use count on the right hand side.
Oh yeah. So you can also use count plus one. It's similar. So set date can have the new value or a callback function which returns the new value. And the callback function have a parameter which is the previous value. It will be a bit safer if you use the callback syntax because it's not guaranteed that every time you can get a count in the React lifecycle. It's a bit complicated, but it's more recommended to do that. So this C is the previous count, and you return the count plus one. If that makes sense. Yep, thank you.
Is there any other questions, or should we move on to the Rick and Morty demo?
Can I see the app.jsx file?
Yeah, sure. I can actually move it. This code is in the GitHub repository, so if you want to play with it, you can go to. Sorry.
Yeah, so the completed code for the whole like Rick and Morty demo is in the workshop 2 folder. This one is just like one of the components. The app.jsx will just be less code, just for implementing these buttons basically.
Yep. We'll go on to the Rick and Morty demo. So what we're going to use is this API, which is rickandmortyapi.com. It basically gives you some characters in Rick and Morty. And if you go to docs, there will be a API to get all the characters. So we're going to use this API, but we'll try to use that API to fetch it while the app first rendered. So we'll go back to the vid project, and I will get rid of the template CSSs, and I will remove the import, and I will get rid of the counting button since we don't need it anymore, and we'll make a div. So now if I go back to the web page, it will be an empty web page. I will move it to another string so that you can view it better. So what we're gonna do is, first we need to fetch that API. I'll use this fact. In order to fetch it only once, I need to pass a empty array for the second parameter, and actually I've disabled the copilot. Oh, good. Use fetch API. And it's a bit weird to use fetch API with async syntax because you need to define another function inside the use effect function, because use effect function can be a async function. So we'll define another function inside it, which we'll call it fetch data something, and we'll use fetch inside it. So we'll make it async. Use await for this, and we have a result from the fetch, and we'll pass the API into it. And that's how we fetch the result. And the result is a response here. We want to convert that response to a JS object. So we need to do await again. Await, which is result.json. That's how we get the data. And we want to set data to be the state. So I will set a state called characters, and set characters. We use state. By default, it will be an empty array, so I will just give it an empty array. And after that, we just set the characters to the data we got. But actually, what the API gave us is a object with info and results. We just want the result array. So we do set characters to the data.results. And we need to run it during the use effect. So fetch data. And there we go. As you can see, there's nothing here, but I can display it with JSON string file. The characters. And after I refresh it, it will be, actually I can add a 2 spaces, I think could work. Maybe it's like that. Yep. So that's how we fetch all the data from the API. But we want to display it with list rendering. So we will create a component for each characters. I will create in components folder. I just call it character card. And it's basically a function, which is character card. It will return each character. So we need to have a prop called the name of the character, and I also want the image. And I think that's it for the character card. So what I want is a div, and in that div I need a h3 tag for name, also an image tag for the image, which the src is the image, and the alt is the name, So that's it. We need to export it. To export default, so that we can import it in our app.jsx. Now instead of doing that, we need to return. Still need to return div, but inside that div, you can use characters.map, and it will have a callback function which is all the characters. So characters, capture, and we'll use the character card. There's a character card here. The name, I'll just close it, and the name will be character.name. And the image will be character.image. I think it's
Did you save?
yeah, I think the
You saved the file.
yeah, no. I think it's called image here, so image. And don't forget to give it a key while you run the list. It will make sure React knows it's the unique value, and it will help it to do the rendering. So I will use character .id for the key, and that works. So I actually want to add some CSS to it. For the character card, I want to have a border. I can simply do a style, a equals an object, which is all the CSS. So I will have a border, which is 1px black, solid. And yeah, that's a border. And we can also have a padding. I'll give it 1 rem. That's our padding. And we actually want to display it in grid. So I need to set this div to grid. I still need to add a style. And display grid. Then I need to use grid. I think I need to use the grid template columns. I'll just copy paste this here. So the grid template columns tells you how many columns you're gonna have in the grid. But if you give it an autofill, it will calculate the columns based on the width of the browser page. But I will keep it like 4, I think. Yep, and that's it. Like 4 characters in 1 column. So I can add a gap for each characters. I'll add a gap for 1 rem, and there we go. We have set characters, but actually from that API, yep.
Why is the style in curly braces?
Sorry.
Why is the style in curly braces?
Which curly braces you're asking?
So like 19. Why is that style wrapped in?
Because you need to pass an object into that style. So this curly braces, it's for like, it's telling it's an object. And the outside braces is for like, it's telling it's a dynamic value for the, actually a
So wouldn't that work
variable.
with HTML though?
It's not HTML, it's JSX.
Sure, but why would you use that over rendering that with HTML?
Yeah, there's some benefits. I think the biggest benefit is type safe, because If you do that, it will list all the CSS properties, and it's better for JSX because it will convert it. It will like you can do some dynamic stuffs, like let's say gap is 1 rem, right? But if you want to change it, you can add a state which is gap, and you can change the state, and it will be changed every time you change the state.
So then you'd have to, but it would work if you just use the style in HTML, right?
No, not really, because style in JSX is in object form, so you can't just pass a string. Yeah. If that makes sense? Yeah, thanks. So here's some issue that for this API, we can't get all the characters. It will give me a page which these characters are in page 1. And in order to change it, we want to add a pagination. So let me create another component called pagination. I will do the same thing. So for this component, I will need to have the current page and the total page and the on-page change, which is a function that tells you. So for the pagination, you actually want to create a very simple one with 2 buttons. So one button is go to the previous page. I would like to use emojis, so let's do the previous page. And another button is for next page. So let's use a right emoji. So if I use this pagination, and actually need to wrap another tag, because JSX is, so for React function, it can only return a single tag, so you need to wrap it with this. And I will use pagination. And that's it. I will have 2 buttons, which is go to previous page and next page. I can actually add some margin here. So it will add top and bottom margin. I will have 1 rem as well. So add some spaces. And I kind of need this pagination also display at bottom. So I can just copy this and put it at bottom. That's how we use this component. And we have this same component. So for the pagination, I need to have a div which tells me which page I'm in. So this is the current page, and it's of the total pages. So actually total pages. And yep. So for now we haven't passed the current page, but we can initialize it with another state because page need to be changed. So I will give another state which is the current page. Actually, I'll just call it page to make it simpler. And by default, page is 1, which is the first page. And I will pass it. I also need another state, which is total page. I need to set the total page, actually pages. I will set it to 0 by default, but I can set it later with the API. So if we go back to the API, it's telling me how many pages in total with this. So it's very simple to set it. Just do set total pages data dot info and pages. So info pages. That's it. That's how I set the total pages. And in the component, I need to pass the page and total pages. So the current page is the page. Total pages is total pages. I also need to copy this here. And there we go. We have, this is the current page, which is the first page. We have in total 42 pages. And here's the same. But I need to make it in one line. So I need to make this div a flexbox. And I need a gap. Actually, I need 0.5 RAM here. So that will keep it flexbox. And in order to make this line center, like the item in flexbox center, I can use align items, I think. Yep, there we go. It's centered. So we want, every time we click this previous button, we want the on-page change to be the previous page. So on click, I'll give it a callback function, and in that function I will call the on-page change. I will set the on-page change to be current page -1. And I'll do the same thing to the next page, but change it to be +1. And that's how we use the on-page change, but we haven't used it in app. So I can actually do on-page change and new page. Yep, I need to set the current page to the new page. So set page to be the new page. Actually, just a shorter way to do this. I just pause the set page because set page actually receive a new value. So on page change set page, and that's it. So as you can see, the page is changing, but we need to refresh the API. So we need to make page to be a dependency of that use effect. And we will add it after the API. In order to do that, I actually need this and the page. And that's it. We'll make it changing after you change the page. And that's our demo for Rick and Morty.
And add like boundary checks for the page. You can like just like -1. when it goes below 1.
I don't know what you're talking.
When you go like below 1, then it goes 0.
So, Felix just remind me there's a tiny little issue. So, if you go to the first page, you can't go to previous. In order to fix that, I can actually give button a disable. So if the current page is the first page, I'll disable it. And for the next page, if the current page is the last page, which is the total page, I will disable it. And there we go. It's disabled by default because it's the first page. And if we go to the next page, it's fine. The fetching is a bit laggy if you click so fast. And if you go to the last page, it will be disabled. Yep, and that's it. No, you can talk about it. Just skip it.
We have time now.
No, it's not food.
Oh, it doesn't take that long. Just go from there.
Thank you.
Ah, we'll go from after.
It's not ready for this. Like, it's too
Oh.
much for this workshop.
That's fine.
No.
It's fine, just. What do you mean? It's just error check. It's like.
Yeah, but that's not like a best practice. So
Let's just say practice.
yeah. Just talk about next workshop.
Just ask if there's any questions first.
Does anyone have any questions?
About the demo or like in general.
And the demo is also in the GitHub repository if you want to check it.
Yeah, so our next workshop in our web dev series is going to be Intro to Express and SQLite. So that'll talk more about building a lightweight backend with Express.js and SQLite, and you'll learn how to make APIs and route management and database integration for server-side apps. So it's mainly useful for trying to make a full stack app. For example, like the Computer Science Club website is a full stack app, so you can have the database, have the front end, or the back end. And that'll be on Thursday, 1st May, week 7, so after the mid-semester break. So another thing is the open source team. So if you don't know, both of us are like part of the open source team, the leaders. So basically it's a place for creative and inventive students who want to build innovative software together. And we currently have 6 mainly web dev related projects underway. So if you want to learn more, you can have a look at a website or a GitHub page. And we'll also be having a meeting tomorrow from 6 to 7 in Engineering and Maths EM 105. So if you can't come to that, you can still join by joining the CS Club Discord server, assigning yourself to the open source contributor role, since we'll be using this for most of our discussions, and reading through our wiki on how to get started on the Confluence link. So that basically outlines all the projects and how to get onboarded and some more details about the specifics. And also, lastly, just if you want to give us some feedback, we'll really appreciate it, just so we can improve on future events. And thank you all for coming. I believe the pizza is here already. So just make sure you have your membership card and on your phone to make sure you check it. Oh, and 2 pieces each first, and then you can come back if you have extras for seconds. Thank you.
I'm not currently exploring the content most of the night to do that.
Yeah.